Act 2, The Forging. Act 2, The Forging, ages 14 to 20. Scene 1, Training Montage. By 14, Shia was beginning to move beyond her mentors. Marcus taught her weapons, karambit fundamentals first. The curved blade became an extension of her hand through 10,000 repetitions. Then pistol training. Hours on the range, firing until her hands ached and her eyes burned, and the muscle memory went so deep that drawing and firing turned reflexive, like breathing. The rifle came next. The 6.5 Creedmoor felt heavier, more intentional. Iris taught her the physics: wind drift, bullet drop, ballistic coefficient, range. Every shot a mathematics problem. Solve it correctly and the target never sees you coming. Kai taught her how to plan. Scenarios. Extract a person from a guarded compound. Disappear after a hit. Plan an operation with 17 contingencies. And every time he'd push back. "You're thinking like someone who's only considered 3 failures," he'd say. "There are always more. Always something you haven't anticipated." By 16, Shia had begun to think in systems. She understood that organizations worked according to predictable patterns, that people had habits and weaknesses, that any operation, no matter how well planned, had gaps if you looked carefully enough. Scene 2, The First Kill. The first attempt on her life came on a Tuesday afternoon in late summer. She was in the safe house study, reading through financial records from the late 1970s, tracking the movement of money through supposedly unrelated entities. The pattern was starting to emerge. A network of foundations and shell companies, all feeding funds into black budget operations, all coordinated with impossible precision. The window shattered. A bullet passed through the space where her head had been a second earlier. Training took over. She was already moving, away from the desk, toward the wall, using the furniture as cover. A second shot, missing again, but close enough that she felt the displacement of air. The attacker was in the apartment across the street, on the 3rd floor. She could see the rifle barrel now, angled against the window frame. She had no weapon. She was 14 years old and someone was trying to kill her with professional precision. The thought was almost abstract. Of course someone was trying to kill her. Her parents had been killed. People who asked questions died. She should have expected this. She moved to the window corner, calculating angles. The attacker had a clear line of sight to most of the room, but not to the narrow corner where the study met the hallway. She could see him. Dark clothes, professional setup, face concealed. He fired again. The bullet punched through the wall near her head. He was good. Probably ex-military. Probably better trained than a 14-year-old with no weapon. But he was making one mistake. He was assuming she would stay in the safe house, would call for help, would act like a frightened child. Shia moved to the hallway, then down the stairs. She heard a car in the front lot. The attacker's escape vehicle, engine running. They would hit the apartment from both directions, shooter and ground team, standard protocol. She went out the back of the building, used the roof connection to reach the adjacent structure, and was on the street behind the attacker's position within 60 seconds. He was still in his nest, moving the rifle barrel toward the safe house window. Focused, methodical, professional. Shia approached from his blind side. He didn't hear her until she was already moving. He tried to turn, tried to pivot the rifle, but she was faster, younger, carrying the weight of years of training and the simplicity of someone who had nothing left to lose. The karambit blade moved in the pattern Marcus had taught her 10,000 times. The man made a sound, not quite human. The rifle fell. She took his weapon, his radio, his identification. Then she ran. It took Marcus 15 minutes to find her. She was in a coffee shop 12 blocks away, drinking tea like nothing had happened. "You left evidence," Marcus said, sitting across from her.
"What evidence?"
she asked. "The body, which wouldn't normally be traceable, but it's right across from our safe house."
"You're absolutely correct. But I removed his identification weapons and all shell casings so that it doesn't look like he was shooting at the safe house. I also used the karambit and sliced completely through in one swipe. No way to trace it. And I was wearing the suppression suit, so there's no DNA."
"So you are completely unbothered knowing that you killed a man?"
"He was trying to kill me."
She took a small sip of her tea.
Is that going to be a problem?
Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he shook his head slowly. No, that's not going to be a problem. Scene 3. Understanding the pattern. Over the next 2 years, Shia went deeper. Iris helped her access classified databases. Careful work, no traces, credentials that belonged to people who'd been dead for years. She built a map, funding flows, operatives, target nations, objectives. The money was staggering, over 100 billion annually, distributed through mechanisms so complex that traditional audits couldn't follow the trail. Operations designed to destabilize, countries with resources, populations that might resist control, territories that had to be broken to be rebuilt. But other patterns emerged as she dug deeper. Alongside destabilization, there were archaeological suppressions, sites destroyed, findings classified, researchers disappearing, all coordinated by the same families that controlled the black budget. References to artifact recovery, genealogical tracking, historical site management.
There's something else.
Shia told Kai one afternoon.
Something underneath.
Yes, he said. There is.
You've known this whole time.
Yes, but you needed to discover it for yourself. You needed to ask the right questions and find the patterns. Anything I told you would have been secondhand. It needed to be real for you.
What is it?
Kai took her to a locked room in the safe house basement. Inside were files, thousands of them. Some dated back decades, some centuries, all organized with meticulous care. Your father collected these, Kai said. He started asking the same questions you're asking now, and the further he went, the stranger it got. He showed her documents referencing Atlantis, not the mythical island, but references to it as a historical civilization, to technological artifacts that shouldn't exist, to evidence suggesting that recorded history was incomplete. Atlantean references, one document said, site suppression ongoing, eradication protocol in effect.
What does that mean?
Shia asked. It means they're erasing something from history, deliberately, systematically, and they've been doing it for centuries. Scene 4. The interrogation. Her first true interrogation came at 17. The target was a mid-level operative in one of the subsidiary companies that handled artifact recovery. She'd tracked him for 3 months. His movements, his communications, his vulnerabilities. When the time came, the operation was flawless. She took him in an alley. Quiet, professional. She had him secured in a warehouse within the hour. Before he could speak, she began laying out her tools on a metal table. Pliers, syringes, cables, containers. She arranged them with methodical precision, each item in its exact place, symmetrical, intentional. The arrangement mirrored the way she had watched her mother set the dinner table, the way a chef prepares mise en place. Her hands moved with muscle memory, learned years ago in her kitchen, before the assassination, before everything. He watched in horror as she arranged each implement.
Welcome to my kitchen,
She said softly, matter of fact. The operative's face went white. As she worked through the arrangement, a soft, barely audible humming emerged from her. A sweet tune with no words, almost like a lullaby. The humming was subconscious, inherited from her mother, something she didn't realize she was doing. But to the operative, it was psychological devastation. The soft domestic sound mixed with the horror of what was coming created a dissonance that broke him psychologically before she even began. He tried to be brave at first, tried to offer money, tried to appeal to conscience she didn't possess. Iris had taught her the techniques: sensory deprivation, temperature extremes, controlled pain. She knew them all intellectually, but using them was different. It required crossing a line. Once she crossed it, she couldn't go back to who she had been. The operative had information she needed: names, operations, objectives. He had files, he had access codes. She used Iris's techniques, methodically, clinically. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. The information was worth the line crossed. When she finally had what she needed, she left him alive, a mercy she might later regret. But at 17, there was still a part of her that wasn't ready to kill without cause. She brought the files to Iris. The interrogation specialist studied them, then nodded.
You crossed a threshold.
She said,
Only his. But don't worry, I didn't enjoy it, neither did I detest it. I just needed information.
Yes, you did. And you'll need more information before this is over. And each time you use these techniques, it becomes easier. Each time you lose a piece of yourself. At some point, you won't be able to remember what that piece was.
Will that be a problem?
Shia asked.
It might be, or it might be necessary. I haven't decided yet.
Scene 5. Pieces of a pattern. By 19, Shia had eliminated 7 operatives connected to her parents' assassination. 7 kills. 7 times crossing a new threshold, each time finding the line had moved slightly further. Marcus was increasingly uncomfortable with what she was becoming, but he kept training her anyway, because loyalty meant something to Marcus, because he had promised her father that he would prepare her. Iris was fascinated by Shia's evolution toward ruthlessness. She pushed her harder each time, testing boundaries, expanding capability, treating it like a scientific experiment. Kai was quieter, but Kai, she was beginning to understand, was waiting for something. It was Kai who showed her the genealogical database, thousands of entries dating back centuries, tracking family lines with obsessive precision, and embedded within those family lines were gaps, places where certain individuals disappeared or were removed from the record. This is what they're tracking, Kai said. Specific bloodlines, not royal families in the traditional sense, but families with something in their genetics, something they're trying to suppress.
Why?
Because those bloodlines represent a threat, because somewhere in the deep past, certain people had power that the current system doesn't want to exist anymore, and the system has been hunting them for generations. Shia looked at the database, at the patterns of elimination and erasure.
They're trying to breed them out, to eliminate them entirely.
Yes, Kai said, but bloodlines are resilient, hidden ones especially. If you know what you're looking for, you can find them. Small populations, isolated, living quietly, not knowing what they are or what they represent.
Which bloodlines?
That's still the question, Kai said. But your father was getting close before they killed him. The files suggest there was one line in particular, a line that shouldn't exist anymore but does. A line that carries something ancient and dangerous in its genes. Scene 6. The deep research. At 20, Shia stopped hunting individuals. She started hunting knowledge. She and her mentors dove deeper into the files, her father's research, documents from black budget operations, classified historical records. Slowly a picture emerged. After the fall of Atlantis, an event that seemed to have been orchestrated rather than natural, the current power structure had risen to fill the void. Elite bloodlines, their ancestry tracing back to collaboration with entities referred to as the Anunnaki. These bloodlines maintain power across governments, corporations, and financial institutions. Their primary objective, suppress Atlantean knowledge, erase it from history, and prevent any resurgence of Atlantean power. But not all Atlanteans had been eliminated. Certain royal bloodlines had survived by going into hiding, by adapting, by developing methods to pass knowledge down through generations via reincarnation patterns encoded in the genes themselves.
That's not scientifically possible,
Shia said. Not with our current understanding of science, Kai replied. But then again, our current understanding has been deliberately limited. Certain research directions suppressed, certain fields declared impossible. Why would that be? The implications spread before her like a web. The entire structure of suppression made sense now. It wasn't just about money or power or resources. It was about preventing a certain kind of human being from rising, preventing ancient knowledge from resurfacing, preventing the past from becoming the present again. Act 3. The Reckoning and the Discovery, ages 20 to early 20s. Scene 1. The Final Operation. At 20 years old, Shia had identified the architects, 3 people, a senior CIA official named Richard Holloway, a private contractor, CEO named Thomas Vex, a Defense Department administrator named Margaret Chen, no relation, though Shia sometimes wondered if that was coincidence. These three had ordered the assassination of Shia's parents. These three had orchestrated the suppression of her father's research. These three sat at the apex of the American side of the operation. The operation to eliminate them took 6 months to plan. Contingencies within contingencies. 17 layers of backup plans. Escape routes calculated to microsecond precision. Shia had become something by then. Not quite human anymore. Not quite machine. Something else. Something that existed in the space between. Holloway died in a car accident that wasn't an accident. Vex disappeared from his private jet somewhere over the Atlantic, leaving no trace except the one Shia arranged to appear 6 months later, in another country attached to another body. Chen was killed in her home by an intruder no one could ever identify. Within 3 weeks, all three were gone. Within 6 weeks, the system had absorbed the loss and reorganized itself. New officials took their places. New operations continued under different names. The Hydra had multiple heads, and removing 3 proved nothing. Scene 2, the exposure. But before they died, Iris helped Shia extract everything. Every file, every record, every piece of evidence that connected the conspiracy to the black budget to the destabilization operations. Shia gave the files to a journalist, to activists, to international organizations, to academics who had been asking uncomfortable questions. The exposure was surgical and comprehensive. Within weeks, the black budget was public knowledge. Investigations were launched. Congressional hearings were scheduled. The revelation that the United States had been running a $100+ billion annual operation to destabilize third world countries for corporate resource extraction sent shockwaves through the system. For a moment, it seemed like it might actually matter. Then almost imperceptibly, the system adapted. New mechanisms replaced the old, different funding channels, different oversight structures, different names for the same operations. Within a year, the destabilization continued. The money still flowed. The resources were still extracted. The structure persisted. Killing individuals doesn't destroy systems. Exposing operations doesn't dismantle the machinery of power. The conspiracy was bigger than any single person, any single document, any single revelation. It was structural, ancient, woven into how civilization itself operated. And that realization should have broken her. Instead, it drove her toward curiosity. Scene 3, the question.
Why?
She asked Kai one afternoon.
Why does it keep working? Why can't it be stopped?
Kai smiled, a rare expression that suggested he'd been waiting for this question. Because you're only looking at the top layer, the black budget, the operations, the governments and corporations.
What's beneath it?
Come with me. He took her back to the underground files, but this time not to the documents about current operations, to the ancient ones, to the references to Atlantis, to the genealogical database tracking the elimination of bloodlines. Your father figured it out, Kai said. The current system isn't independent. It serves something, maintains suppression on behalf of something. The Anunnaki arrangement, your father called it. The pact.
A pact with what?
With entities that are older than recorded history, with forces that helped create civilization and demand that civilization remain under their control. The elite bloodlines don't run the world. They manage it on behalf of beings that are rarely visible, but always present. Shia looked at the documents, at the careful, obsessive tracking of suppression operations stretching back centuries.
Atlanteans, she said.
Yes, the surviving ones, the bloodlines that reincarnate, the people who carry ancient knowledge and capability in their genes, they're still alive, still operating, still hunted, and somewhere in this world right now, one of them is living a life unaware of what they are or what they represent. Scene 4, the hunt transforms. Shia's investigation shifted focus again. No longer hunting individuals, no longer chasing individual operations, now hunting knowledge, hunting history, hunting the truth about what civilization really was and who really controlled it. She traced references through ancient texts, through suppressed archaeological evidence, through classified briefings. She found records of lost civilizations, not just Atlantis but Angkor Wat, Tiwanaku, the Olmec, and others. Each one showed signs of impossible technological capability. Each one had been systematically destroyed or erased from history. Each one represented a threat to the current order. She found evidence of mystical objects being collected by elite families, of ancient technology being reverse engineered, of knowledge being deliberately suppressed because certain kinds of information were too dangerous to let exist in the public domain. She began to understand that the black budget wasn't about money. It was about control. It was about preventing certain things from becoming true, certain knowledge from being rediscovered, certain people from realizing what they were. There's someone, Kai told her at 22, someone with a name that appears in the genealogical database, a surviving bloodline, not erased, not eliminated, still reincarnating, still carrying the old power in their blood.
Who?
I can't tell you, not yet, but if you keep digging in the right places, you might find them, or they might find you. These things have a way of working out.
Why would they want to find me?
Because you're hunting the same truth they're hunting, because you're asking the same questions they're asking, because sometimes in this world, when you're looking for the truth hard enough, the truth starts looking for you. Scene 5. The beginning of something larger. Shia's last act in her role as an assassin was to make a choice. She could continue hunting individuals forever, playing the role of the middleman's enemy, while forever working within a system designed to suppress her agency, or she could enter the underground, the hidden networks, the places where suppressed knowledge was preserved and discussed and slowly, carefully disseminated. She chose the second path. It took her 2 years to make the connections, to find the right people, to prove that she could be trusted with the kinds of knowledge that got people killed. But by age 24, she had a network, a community, a connection to the underground streams of information that flowed beneath civilization's official narrative. It was through these networks that she began to encounter hints of someone who didn't appear in official records, someone who lived a normal life but carried something ancient in their blood, someone who was beginning to ask questions, someone whose path was moving toward intersecting with hers. She didn't know his name yet, didn't know who he was, but Kai had taught her to see patterns, and the pattern was clear. The hunted had become the hunter, and the hunter was now looking for the hunted. The convergence was coming. Shia didn't know it yet, but she was looking for someone named Seven, and when they finally found each other, everything would change.